Here's how to do a mitered neckband on the baby Raglan. The seams are in except for one, and this is the center stitch. I've marked it by running a piece of contrasting yarn through it. I'm going to pick up this neckline with the wrong side facing me onto the needles of the machine. I'm going to start by picking up that center front stitch, and I'm going to put it on needle number 1 left. Then I just have this little strip of the right hand neckline to pick up for the right side of the neckband. So I'm going to pick that up, and I'll be able to tell from the needle numbers how many stitches it was picked up onto. Upon picking them up, I get in and I look and make sure that I am picking up. I can stretch this knitting down and see that I am picking them all up along the same vertical line of the knitting. Even though the wrong side is facing me, I can see, and this one here is not in the right spot, so I'm going to fix it all the way down. Now when you get to the very top and it was harder to do the decreases because you didn't have enough stitches, that part won't match perfectly. Now what I want to do is pick up the left side of the neckline also along the same number of needles. I was on 25 on the right, I'm going to be on 25 on the left as well. And you can see me unrolling this, picking up in the proper position and getting it in the middle, and then going ahead and dividing it and picking that all up. So I'll get that on and double check it. Now I study the left hand side of the neck and make sure I'm picking up my stitches in a straight line. I'm going to pick up one stitch at the top of the sleeve. For the top of the back, I'm picking up every stitch from this neckline from the waist yarn, and I'm being very careful, taking my time, making sure that I do not miss a stitch. If I miss a stitch, it'll unravel and make a mess that I would have to mend. So I'll get the back of the neck and then one more stitch for that last sleeve, and I'll have this on the machine. With every stitch picked up, I'm pulling all the needles out into hold position. That'll make my first row a little easier to do. The machine only has to push those needles in now. It doesn't have to also pull them out. And I'm going to have my carriage on the right, thread up with the yarn, and knit one row. So here I am getting that first row in. Here in the center of the work is where the miter needs to be made. I am going to do the miter every time I knit to the right, and my row counter is set down on row 1 because I've done the first row of the neckband. I am going to do a decrease with this single transfer tool, moving the stitch to the left of the center onto the center needle and the stitch to the right of the center onto that same center needle. Now I have an empty here and an empty here, and they need to be filled in. So I'm going to move this over to the left. That'll fill in the stitch on the left, and because it has 3 loops on it, I'm bringing it out. It'll make it easier for the machine to knit it. Now I have to move all of these stitches inward to fill in the 2 empty needles that move created, and it's not that hard to do. I'm only using a triple transfer tool, and it's a few moves, but not all that many. Now you could save a bit of time by using a 7-stitch transfer tool. Move the empty needles back out of work and knit to the right, and then knit to the left again. Now you've got a mark in the center, but it's pretty easy to see that center stitch because of the stitches that have been decreased onto it earlier. So you want to repeat the same thing with your carriage on the left. Go ahead and move those stitches onto the center, and then move that center pile of stitches over by 1. Yes, the center needle keeps changing. It keeps working its way to the left. And then I'm going to go ahead and in groups of 3 move these stitches on over. So I'll do that and come back. Having done those moves, I knit 2 rows again. And now that my row counter says number 5, this is going to be my last decrease row. And I'm doing the same exact process one more time here at row counter 5. Then I'm going to do something different for row counter number 6. I knit 1 row. Row 7 is a turning row. I'm going to turn my tension up by 2 numbers, knit back, and I go back to my regular neckband tension. Now I have to do increases. To do the increases, I need 2 empty stitches in the middle. So to get those, I need to move these stitches over here, over by 2 whole needles, so that I have 2 empty stitches in the middle. So I'll get those moved and show you what to do in the middle. Here's my middle stitch. It's very easy for me to see, so I still need to move the 4 stitches to the right of it over by 2 whole positions. I have to pull down on the knitting so I don't drop a stitch. Now the middle stitch needs to be moved over by 1 position because that gives it an empty needle on each side of the center stitch. Then I have to fill in the empty needle using the heel of the stitch to the left, that is actually the stitch from the row below, and the heel of the stitch to the right. And that's an increase row. I'm going to knit 2 rows, do an increase, knit 2 rows, do a 3rd increase, knit a row, and I will have my neckband. I'm cutting the yarn, leaving a good long piece for sewing, and then I'm going to take this off on several rows of waste yarn. The neckline is down in my blue jean clad lap, and it naturally wants to fold on that loose row, which is exactly what I had in mind. And you could fold it down and see this great looking little center front. Go ahead and remove that bit of yarn. Now I have a little hand sewing to do. I'm leaving the waste yarn on the center back in place. That's just my insurance. I'll remove it later. But I'm going to take that long end for sewing, thread it in the needle, and go along on the wrong side, and I'm going to just use a whip stitch to sew it down to the first stitches all along, and it'll cover up the little ridge where I picked up stitches. The whip stitches merely go through the loop at the bottom of the neckband, that is right here, the first pink loop, and through the loop at the top of the neckband, which peeks out in between the blue waste yarn for me, for my colors. And I just draw it up and then go find the next loop. And I will do that along the back of the neck, just whipping that down into place. When I get to the part that has a lump where the edge of the neck is, I roll the lump flat and then get the pink piece, which is where I picked up, and just put my needle in that and then grab the loop again from the end of the neckband and at the waste yarn. And here's the next one. And I'm going to do that all along the neckband that's left, because It was only the back that had the waist yarn. Time to remove my waist yarn and see how my neck turned out. So here's how it looks on the inside, and let's see how it looks on the outside of the sweater. It's nice because it covers whatever mess there is on the inside, and it matches up beautifully on the outside. And I've also removed the waist yarn from the back of the neck, and I'm inspecting, making sure that I got every single stitch, and that looks great.